Hey, what's up, guys? I've got the van in the shop here. We had started doing that lift kit in the fall. We did most of it. We did leaf springs and spacers in the front, but I hadn't had time to put the lift blocks. Well, I have to make some lift blocks for it. The van was sitting still a little bit lower than I'd like in the back. Even with the new leaf springs on there. So I think we're going to put some 2.5 inch blocks in there. I sort of have the jack there to mock it up right now to see if 2.5 inch blocks would be too high. I don't want it to be jacked in the air in the back, like I mentioned in the previous video. I wanted to sit as level as possible, but of course, once you get all your camping gear in the back and you fill up the coolers and whatever, you end up with a bit extra weight. So a little bit higher is fine, but which will bring it down pretty much level when it's done. So I've got the jack under there now, and I'm thinking that's about where I'd like it, and that's 2.5. So I think pretty sure that's what we're going to go with. So I'm going to take the wheels off and get some. I got the barbecue going in the shop here. I just finished work, so I'm going to make some barbecued chicken, and we're going to put some blocks into the back of this, which involves. I don't have longer shocks, so I think I'm going to make some brackets that will be able to keep using the factory size shocks. It'd be easier to track down. Be honest with you, I did some research and I couldn't find any shocks that were a couple inches longer. I didn't know what I was looking for. So I think that's probably the best bet. Anyways, so I'm going to get organized here and we'll get these blocks made. I guess you need 2 different sockets to change a tire. So the spacer is going to go in between the leaf spring and the rear end. Oh yeah, we have to contend with that brake line there too. And the shock. So I think what we're going to do first is undo the shocks and have a better look at that brake line, see what we need to do to get a bit of slack out of that. Rather not move the lines, because you know if you move them then you're going to lose them. They'll be leaking for sure. Okay, I'm going to get something on the ground and go have a look underneath there. So I'm just looking over at the brake lines there, these guys here, and that does not look promising. Like they need to be changed, but I don't have what I need here for that. Let's see if we can unbolt them. This van's been undercoated so well that the bolts just loosen right off. Maybe I can make a spacer. Yeah, that might work. A 1-inch spacer. Yeah, we can probably do that. Alright, I made this little block here. See if I can jam that in there without breaking the brake line. There's not a lot of room in here to show you guys what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to get this bolt started. I don't know where the infamous hole is. Am I through the spacer even? There it is. I found it. I guess we have to undo that shock. It was winter this morning. We got a bunch of snow and now it's real nice out. Kind of multitasking here. First barbecue of the year, really. I'll get the shock bolt off. That's another thing. We need to extend this perch here because the shock won't be long enough. So I'll probably weld something up. Nothing crazy there, just some kind of bracket extension. Yeah, see, the shock's not quite long enough. The shock could be okay for another inch, but not for the 2.5. Now the spacer's going in right in between there. If you guys can see that or not, I don't know. Yeah, so the spacer's gonna go in there. I have to make something. I'm not sure. I'll have to see what I have here. Probably keep it the same width as the perch, which is 2 inches. Okay, so I had some 2.5-inch solid square bar. So I cut it. I needed 2 inches wide by 2.5 high. So I ripped it down on my saw. And I'm going to drill a couple of holes in there for the dowel on or the eye bolt, whatever you call it, on the leaf spring. So it's going to be a pin on one side and a hole on the other. So I'm just going to drill that right now. Chicken's almost ready. I'm hungry. So that's my little lift blocks. That should work just fine. So I'm gonna cram those under the spring. All right, let's see how this fits in there. It's in there. Not sure how I'm going to lower the jack and line up that dowel, that strap around the diff. So what I did here, you'll see you're going to have to try to line up the spring with the eye bolt into the hole there, but the spring tends to pull towards you. I don't know if it's because of the lean I have going on, but you just put a strap there around the back of the diff, not the drive shaft, but the diff. Sorry about the light over there, but anyway, so that should line us up pretty close. And we'll just lower the jack and get it in there, or raise the jack, I should say. Gotta be pretty close. There we go. On there. Oh, what's going on here? Maybe the pin is too long. Yeah, it looks like the pin's too long. All right, let's take it back out. Should do it. Let's try it again. In. These U-bolts are way too long. I guess it would have saved me a bunch of time to cut these before putting them in, but well, I'm gonna have to cut those off. Well, there we have it. They're good and tight. Chicken. Love it. All right, same thing here. I got the U-bolts out there. So don't forget the things you got to contend with. The longer shocks, the brake line that has to be lengthened, or I don't know if you can get a longer flex line, the rubber part, the block, I think it's called the flex line. Whether you can get a longer one of those, that would be the best bet, because then you're not stretching your steel lines away from the diff where they can get caught by a branch or a rock or whatever. So that may be what I'm going to look into. But yeah, the main things, you need longer U-bolts, your lift blocks, longer shocks, longer brake line. And that's it. And 2.5 inches is kind of not a crazy amount of height. So I think, you know, you're not asking for trouble at 2.5 inches. And a solid block, to me, you can't really go wrong. You know, it'll last a lifetime. So, all right, gonna get this last block in here. So there's a bigger project coming up here with the van. Is I picked up an LS motor, and we're gonna do an LS swap on this thing. With the price of gas and everything, I figure something with a little more horsepower, and you don't have to drive so hard. And the LS motors are known for better gas mileage. So I picked one up for real cheap. Actually, I got a friend of mine who had a whole truck, and so I made a deal with him and used it as a donor. Pretty well stripped everything I needed out of it. So that'll be one of the projects coming up. And we're gonna put some bigger tires on this thing. Nothing crazy, maybe some 31s at very most. But something that's a little wider and take me some of these bush trails a little easier. So once you get your U-bolts all tightened up, you should run around with it for a day or two and then come back in here and just retighten these, because they will pick up some slack for sure. That's it. Blocks are in. Now we're going to figure out what we're going to do with those shocks. So you're going to want to lower your jack that you have under your rear end before you figure out your shock perch length, because there should be a little extra travel there for full extension of that shock, so you're not trying to rip the stud out of the floor or whatever. So yeah, if I took the time, the right thing here would be to cut this shock perch right off. Cut this right off the rear end, and then turn it and weld it back on. But that's a lot of work. I mean, I really wish I could have just found a longer shock. It needs a longer shock anyways. Okay, so what I've done here is I've marked out I sheared off 4 of these little plates, and I've marked them out with a 3-inch space between them. And so we'll go to the iron worker and we'll punch these holes. Then we're going to bolt these to the pre-existing shock mount and bolt this one to the shock, and then just put a tack weld on it for now. I am going to order some new shocks, so temporary fix to get it out of the shop today. Let's go to the iron worker and punch those holes. Definitely faster than drilling. Very, very handy for small fabrication like this. So I have to use this. I think I told you guys this before, but this thing here is called the stripper. And the opening in the stripper is for different sizes of punches. When you have a small plate, you know, it fits through the hole of the stripper. So I have to use like a spacer, if you will, to pull the plate off of the die. Put a spacer in there, I think. Made a couple of spacers. When I come in here, I am going to tack this, obviously, otherwise it's just going to move, right? So I'm going to tack this on. I'll also tack these spacers just to make it a little cleaner. So now the fun part, I'll tighten that up a bit. So now I want to have a little extra travel on the shock, so I'm gonna push this up before I tack it, so it gives me that little bit extra length, you know. So probably, and try to shoot in a straight line. Is that too much? No, probably not. Something like that. So yeah, I'm going to put just a little tack on this so it doesn't turn. Temporary, guys, temporary. Temporary until it breaks, I guess. Ah, boy. Yeah, I guess that'll do. All right, I'm going to fire up the welder. Guys, gonna weld here. real good. There we go. Good as gold. It's not going nowhere. Yeah, see, what I'm wondering is with a longer shock, I was going to run out and see if I could get one, but what I'm concerned about, if you can see that, look how close this shock is. You can't see that. This is the brake line. There's barely a finger's margin of space back there. So if I got a longer shock, the perch is almost too far underneath at this point. It would, in a straight line, would touch the brake line. So rather than buying a shock and then having to make a bracket anyways, I just made the bracket. The shocks they're ugly, but they're still good. So when I do decide to buy some new shocks, which I do plan to get in some rough countries or something, I'm gonna cut the perch off of the rear end and turn it rather than put a bracket like this on it. I just have so many projects on the go right now that I need to get something, done to the point where I can get my LS in there, and of course do some adventuring. So that's where we're at. Anyways, I'm calling that good for now. GFN, I guess, eh? Good for now. That's what we're doing. Alright, unfortunately I'm short 1/2 inch bolt, so I'm going to have to use a piece of threaded rod, which I'm not a big fan of, but don't have a choice. Stupid threaded rod. Guess I should have cleaned up the threads on this before getting under here. Let's get you back here somewhere. You can still sort of see there. Take this up a bit. This is deep enough, long enough. So, right here. I really need this jacket here. Okay. Get this straightened out a bit. Alright, we get a few tack welds on there, same as the other side. That's it. Calling it good. Tighten up these bolts. Oh wow, the socket falls off every time. There we go. Should work out. Some crappy little welds in there. I should have changed the wire, but and I'll revisit this. That's for sure. Yeah. So we're all done here, guys. I'm just gonna put the wheel on and we'll have a look and see what it looks like. Take a minute and tidy up a bit here. Oh, that brake line. That's right. Okay, I gotta have a look at that brake line. Okay, for the brake line here, kind of sketchy looking there, but I just put a spacer block in. It gave me a bit of slack in the brake line. I'm gonna go order one of those flex lines and make some new lines, steel lines for the back, and spend a day and fine tune all this. So, yeah, good for now, I guess. Alrighty, looks pretty good. I think we'll be all right. Again, we'll have to, in a couple of days, pull the wheels off, retighten all these bolts, the U-bolts and the shock bolts, make sure everything's all in one piece. All right, so I'm gonna get the wheels on it and then we can have a look and see what it looks like. So there we are, guys. It looks pretty good. It's a little bit high on the back than what I'd prefer, but once we get the gear in there, it'll sit a little flatter at the back, and also looks a little weird with the small tires. I do plan on getting some tire upgrades very soon. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It's about 34 inches to the trim on the back, and about 33 inches on the front. So if you go back a video or two, we measured it before we did any changes to it. You'll get a better idea how much we went up. I think it was 29 3/4 on the back, something like that. So with the springs and the blocks, I'm sure we went up 4 inches on the back. I'm considering getting the proper lift for the front rather than the blocks, or the spacers, I mean. I'm thinking about getting the, I think they have one for control arms that'll bring it up a little bit, or longer coils. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look into it, but overall I'm pretty happy. Stay tuned, we're doing an LS swap in this thing. I've got most of the stuff I need to do it, so we'll probably be starting in the next week or two, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. So make sure you come back and have a look. So that's it for today there. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you on the next one.